The old hit the go live button. I'm actually computer literate, okay? So I want it to be known. Just redirecting now, mate. So. Trying not to wear my glasses, and I know Gaz and Jules are on the line, but I've been doing my rope exercises.
Hi, Guy. Good to see you. Those of you that are online, before we start, I suppose we're in the live online as well, but there's a section there for Q&A. You'll see down at the bottom of the screen and also in the chat. So feel free to put anything, any just general comments in the chat. But if you've got a specific question, always much easier in the Q&A section, because we'll make sure we go through and get them all answered.
Okay, just got a couple of people who texted me, 3, just said they're having a few laptop and baby issues, so can they give us a minute? All right, we'll just give it a minute, and then we'll kick off the old laptop and baby issue. What's the weather like in Queensland, up your way today on the sunny coast, mate?
Mate, look, I won't rub it in too much. It's 20, 24, 25, 28 on the weekend, and 29 on Sunday. So
wow.
So yeah, we're very blessed, very beautiful, and that's one of the things that makes me optimistic, Guy. Is one of the questions coming through there is making particular choices, but it's we're all moving into spring now, so it's going to make a big difference, and there should be a pretty significant change that's starting to happen, not just in the environment, but in people. I think it's a big opportunity to move forward.
There's a lot of momentum down here, that's for sure. And I know I'm looking on, even in Melbourne, we've got 22 on Monday, we've got 19 Sunday. So we've got some nice weather coming. It's been a bit humid down here. Nothing like Brizzy, where certainly where I used to live, but it's quite nice. Who else we've got? Clint, g'day, buddy. Old Blue Eyes. Welcome. We might, I'm still waiting just for a couple of other people who said they were going to join us, but we might just start, I think, Jace, if that's okay with you. So welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us again tonight. Sorry, someone just texted me one more. Okay, I'm just saying go to the link. Yeah, sorry about that. So tonight's theme is, quote, only when you accept the fullness of what you have created do you have the power to change it. And Jason's going to talk into that soon. But for both of us, we felt that tonight is more about providing you with tools that you can apply in your life. And that should be your measure for walking away from tonight. So if you don't get it, or you feel you need more, then do please ask questions, because this really is, neither of us are doing this for any other reason than to help people, obviously Jason. So, the key is to make sure you get something out of this tonight, and if you don't, then please ask questions. If you want to know more about Jason, then go to the Quantum Movement Facebook page. His stuff is amazing. It's empowering. I mean, I'm blessed to have, I just looked the guy up after he was on the Pete Evans podcast, for those that don't know, stalked him, tracked him down, and here we are now doing these. And if you haven't seen any of his stuff, just go listen to his videos on the Quantum Movement Facebook page, because it is incredibly powerful. So have a squeeze. Jason will talk more on that tonight anyway, so do ask questions, and we'll get to them as we roll through. I've already got a few people that can't make it tonight that have texted me with questions, so I'll get to them. So for all of us in Victoria, it's been a hell of a week down here yet again, where legislation changes, and we're seeing changes of the likes we've never seen before, not in my lifetime anyway. But sadly, not everyone is seeing the change or has the awareness, because they're solely tuned into our mainstream media and the daily press conferences from our publicly elected officials. For me personally, it seems like the premiers can do pretty much whatever they want at the moment. Perhaps Scott Morrison is working behind the scenes, but that's a hard pill for Victorians who are about to enter their 8th month of lockdown. And that is a really, really difficult thing, unless you're and I'm not living in stage 4, I'm in 3. But most of the people that my friends, most of them, there are quite a few Geelong friends, but they're living through this, and it is really hard. You know, we've got a premier that's accountable to himself, and then he outsources that accountability to our chief medical officer. And for me personally, I've joined the dots. I've done a lot of research in this. You'll see that Brett Sutton, who's the chief medical officer down here, by his own admission, takes his advice from the WHO. And if you quickly follow the dots, who owns the WHO? Well, countries contribute to the World Health Organization, except for the US, which was the major financial supplier. They've pulled the pin, Trump's pulled the pin, but that leaves one person who is the major contributor, and that is Bill Gates, and he's very keen on vaccinating the world under the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I guess when you're contributing that much money to an entity, you're probably not going to settle for anything less than your agenda. Hang on, I'm just asking some other questions there. What's the URL on Facebook? Guy Rowan. I'm not friends with Guy, but I'm tipping it's on yours, Jace. Oh, we've lost you, mate.
Yeah, on the Jason Miles Facebook page. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it's kind of, and I guess from where I was saying there, so, you know, he is controlling the WHO, in my opinion, and, you know, the money's controlling that, and the WHO's controlling we're seeing it firsthand. The WHO is controlling Brett Sutton, and bang, just like that, our federal government seems to have no role to play. And this hasn't happened just in the last 7 months. This has been in the making, as Jason has said before, for a very, very long time. So for me, the dots weren't that hard to join. And I guess I also think that my view is now that, you know, we are in the mess we are in because of us, because of what we haven't done. I wouldn't have said that a while back. I would have laid the blame. But the deeper I go into myself, the more I know that that is my truth. My lack of questioning, my lack of involvement, my lack of energy, yet plenty of apathy at times, or even my own ignorance has led me to a point where I just couldn't ignore it anymore. The outsourcing of my life is, and those that know me would know this, the outsourcing of my life is something I did for many years. You know, the blame, the guilt, the shame, the hatred, the wanting to belong, the judging, the not being good enough. You know, some of those who know me well would know that's pretty true of me, yet others who know me well, that might come as a surprise. But I feel we all have our expectations of how to live, and at times for me, I feel they've been placed on us, we've allowed those to be placed on us by other people. You know, we invite that in, we actually encourage it at times, especially in the corporate world, you know, ratings, end of year calibration, all that stuff. And even socially, I think we invite it in socially as well, getting that peer acceptance, which is why now more than ever, it just makes sense to me to live accordingly to our highest self. And that takes a lot of work. For me, you know, I might talk like a lion, which for me is using pride to hide the excuse of my insecurities. But as soon as I don't fit into mainstream narrative, or before, maybe in the last couple of months, I quickly conform and used to sacrifice like a lamb, like I would give my power away. So sure, I might be a little bit misunderstood and confused, but that shouldn't make me or anyone else want to hide behind our fears due to the embarrassment of what others might think or say. I'm not sure if people get to crossroads in life, but my experience is that I became ill-informed well along my path, which is the path I chose. And I was walking the path of someone else or something else. And that was all around me. It was never within me. It was always the external environment. You know, and then I would scream out looking for a person to blame because of my ill-prepared way to deal with the things that I had allowed into my life. And it was just like a hamster wheel. It was going round and round and round. I'd like to think that I've found my way through it, but it hasn't come easy for me. I do a lot of work on it, and I know that with our juicing retreats with Gaz and Jules and Nick, we certainly do a lot of work in there as well. And if I don't do it, it's easy to slip back in the way I was, basically, or the way I used to be. It's not me moving forward, and I tend to work on it every day. I think that's an important part, to make sure you do the work. I watched a video clip yesterday, and the person presenting spoke with the most truth I've ever heard anyone speak with for a very, very long time. In fact, it might have been Tuesday. He spoke with everything he had. It was passion. It was apparent that with his closing comments, if you listen to them, and I'm going to tell you where to find it, the words gave me chills because I was so present in what he was saying. He challenged each of us on the most, well, I would say it's the most unchallenged of subjects. a subject that very few know how to deal with, much less want to talk about. And I'm talking about suicide. You see, we leave it to others to instruct us how to act and how to respond. Yet the very lessons we need to learn are within us. And I'm talking about you, Jason. Your post on Tuesday, emotionally, and I'm going to get teary-eyed now, mate. It really hit hard. So if you haven't seen it, I think it was a Tuesday, mate. You did that one? Yeah. Go to the Quantum Movement. Just have a look at his post on Tuesday. It was just incredibly touching. So look, I'm gonna leave it there for tonight. We're gonna roll into this now. We're gonna get started. But Jace, before we do, I just wanted to ask you how you feel about. Are you on mute, mate, or on mute? Can you hear me?
I'm right. I'm here.
I just want to ask you how you feel about this comment. What if something or someone that you are a complete objection to came into your life to help you? So just have a think about that. What if someone or something that you're a complete objection to came in your life to help you? Now, this could be many things to many people, but I'm coming from an angle of where I sit today of Daniel Andrews. And I think most people who sit in my seat or in my corner would probably agree with that. If it's not apparent for those around Australia, here in Victoria, it seems seriously like we're living under an oppressive regime. You know, you can't go out after 8 or before 5, 1 hour of exercise a day. You can't have friends over. You can't visit anyone. You can only go out for a few reasons. You have to wear a mask. Schools are shut. You can't congregate in public. Keep 0.5 metres apart. You'll get arrested if you put anything on the Facebook police that mildly insinuates you're going to do a peaceful process. You know, and now new laws have further been passed to lock us down, even when no COVID cases exist. But, and here's the big but, what if he came into our lives to teach us a lesson and help us wake up? What do you think, mate?
I think it's an amazing way to look at things. I thank you for the setting this up and the start as well, and your beautiful introduction. It's look, I believe when we are most present in our lives and when we are most ready to grow, we're going to be confronted with the people that are going to most challenge us. And sometimes that can be the people that we love. And I'm sure that everyone can attest to that whenever they've been in love with someone and they've, you know, felt a deep level of comfort and connection with someone that they thought they could never live without, they become confronted by their most dire and darker thoughts of what it may be to lose that person or not live without them. But it's also in how they become restricted in not being able to express themselves fully and openly to that particular person for fear of what they may now lose. So someone like, as you said, a Daniel Andrews, I think I had an interview some time ago, and the similar thing around Bill Gates. I mean, many people look at Bill Gates and his very polarizing views. And, you know, the one thing to remember with a Bill Gates and a Daniel Andrews and these types of people that you might not align with is they don't believe, the reason why they're so contrasting and probably so abrasive to certain people is they do not believe that what they are doing is wrong. They don't see things the way that you do. So they, in their own righteousness, believe, and look, they're not hiding it. Bill Gates has not hidden his agenda. He believes that he would be successful if he was to reduce the population of people by 15%. He doesn't look at that as a tragedy. He looks at that as a celebration and a brilliance. It's a difference in doing so, but it takes a huge capacity to be able to look at someone so opposing to what society has caused us and expected us to act in a particular way. So I believe that when we as individuals allow ourselves to understand our adversary or the thing that makes us hate and bring hate up in us is the very thing that facilitates and allows us to release it. You see, if we were to hang around with a lot of yes people or people that agreed with everything we said, we would never grow. We would most likely do the opposite. And we would find ourselves quite confounded in a very unvibrant, uncontrasting and quite boring type of existence. It's the contrast that exists in our life that enlivens us, that causes us to grow. It's the sadness that makes our happiness most brilliant. It's these types of things, but it's to look at, let's just say, for example, that a Daniel Andrews was, just go there for a second, because it's not about liking anyone, it's about setting yourself free. But let's just say that Daniel Andrews was the greatest teacher to affront every Victorian that existed at this particular time. What it would take for an individual to overcome their past traumas, their own history, what they'd heard and what they believed to be wrong, but allow themselves to be able to be most confronted by what it was that he was saying, to come to a point of understanding it, not agreeing with it, but understanding why he believed for that to be right and true. Because it's in understanding that you can actually let it go and release it. And I want to just give an understanding here, because it's usually the most simple things when they're presented to people become the most difficult to apply. For each of us, we've got something that someone has done to us in a wrong way sometime in our life in the past, something that we've yet to forgive them for. Someone we might still be in contact with, but we have not been able to release this thing that we still hold on to, a splinter of sorts. It's not until we have the courage to ask questions and with the intention of understanding them without an agenda, but understanding what it is and why they did that, what they went through. I know for me, with my father at a young age, I was very resentful because I felt I didn't get the attention. I felt I was never understood by him. And it wasn't until I saw it in a very different capacity, in what he believed to be true was about giving me freedom and creating independence. And that's what he believed developed strength in an individual. When I understood that and saw it from a completely different perspective, in that instant, as I understood it, it was gone. I didn't need healing, because I understood that there was no malice that was taken. It was just simply someone else's expression, which allowed me the freedom and a greater freedom to have my own expression. So the thing is, when we start to restrict and confront and conflate and point fingers at others, we're not doing that. We're actually putting ourselves in our own prison, and we're restricting our own way that we want to be able to authentically express ourselves. And the very nature of what we are is different. We do not find satisfaction in being the same as others. We find comfort, but we do not find growth. We do not find fulfillment in being the same. It's in our difference and our ability to express our difference. Now, if we start to put people into prisons, if we start to, try to elevate ourselves by bringing someone else down, it's a seesaw. We have now become caught in a trap with that particular individual. We become entangled with them. And it's what they do compared to what we do that affects our emotions, our feelings, and we have given away a significant part of what we are. It's a key part that, if I could express, it's some part in our life we've been led to believe that we're flawed. We've been led to believe that there's something wrong with us, that we're missing something. We've been led to believe that something about us is not right. So the very nature of what we do is that we go looking for things and comparing ourselves to others in order to copy or emulate others, be part of society to find fulfillment that way. But the very nature of our own self is, if we just focused on understanding, getting to a point where we understood, and we didn't stop in confusion, we didn't stop in apathy, we didn't stop in kind of got it, but we got to a point where we understood it, where everything was clear and clarified. And until we got to that point, we didn't put pressure upon ourselves. We didn't judge ourselves. We didn't judge those people around us for the emotions that we might be feeling at that particular point.
And is that because when you say when we're clear and clarified, that doesn't just mean taking the information in around you, it means taking that information in, I think if I can paraphrase that, taking it into yourself, sitting with it, discerning, and then realizing what is right for you, rather than saying it's a snippet from here, a snippet from there, and I'll take the best snippet, like a headline from Twitter or whatever.
Yeah. Look, a big part of that, that there is certain processes that we can go through and do. One of the most important ones is a pen and paper, and to start with what it is that you currently see and assess, because a pen and paper extracts and it allows you to express and release things from you. When you keep them caught up in your thinking, they continue to keep circulating and elevating to such a point, because those thoughts that are within you, they want to be released. They're not meant to be a part of you. They're an interruption to the very nature of what you are. So the thoughts that you're having only exist to be expressed. And that is a part of being actioned and released and let go from you. Now, the thing is, when you start to write these things down, what happens is you start to get greater clarity. So if you're seeing someone that's triggering you, that's affecting you, or, you know, interrupting your life in some way, to sit down and just start to write and to become clear on what it actually is that this person is doing and how it's making you feel, and not comparing that, not worrying whether you're doing it right or wrong, but just being in communication with yourself until you can gain clarity from that, is a very significant process. Because at first of all, what it starts to do, much like what you do with juicing, is it purges, is allows you to start to have that toxic release. So let's consider someone like you said about Dan Andrews. Someone that's so polarizing actually facilitates a healing in people because they allow themselves to become so triggered that they release their anger and their fear and their frustration. And one of the things that we've learned is that's supposedly a bad thing. That is an essential thing. That is required within each of us. It's required that we let go, that we release. It's what we hold on to that continues to make us toxic, that continues to make us unhappy, continues to make us dissatisfied. If that makes sense.
For me it does, 100%, yeah. What I might do, given we're going to ask some Q&As tonight, and thanks for that. Again, I found that quite comforting and confronting at the same time. Lionel and Donna, we're going to ask, there's a bunch of questions here, but there's a couple on the line, Lionel and Donna, and I'm just going to allow Lionel to talk and ask. Just thought we'd get some participation, saves people hearing, well, my voice, but they like hearing yours, mate. You got that meditative, smooth John Law's voice. So
I might just add to that, Jace, because one of the things I really wanted to, I suppose, build on and encourage is I can definitely share some things that I know will help people, and I can be confident in saying that. But it's very important that it gets received. And like I mentioned before, is ask questions. I mean, I don't care myself how long I'm on here tonight to share with you, to ensure that when you walk away from here, you can apply something with confidence. And I think I was saying to Jason at the start is, you know, to such a degree that you could actually explain it to someone else so they would be confident. Because that's what's going to happen when you start to allow yourself to move forward and grow. We have to go into a place we haven't been before, which is unfamiliar. And sometimes that's called fear. But it's also called great opportunity because we're moving into a new space. So it's very important to recognize that when you do go to do something new, it is the unknown. It is the very definition of fear. So the more certain that you can become on actually how to navigate through that, that's what determines ease, peace, and calm in our life. And our ability to be able to navigate the unknown is the very nature of life. It's the existence of life. It's what causes us to become different. It's what causes us to become inspiring or inspired within our own self, is our ability to be able to move into the unknown. And that's, you know, we're in a place like that at the moment. We've never experienced this before. You know, and it's the same every single day, but it seems a lot more heightened now. And one of the main reasons of that is that everyone's involved in this. And it's becoming more obvious that a lot of people don't know what to do. Whereas before, when we had our own little world that we were going through, if we didn't understand or didn't know what to do, well, that was okay. But it becomes more apparent and fearful when we look around and other people maybe don't have the same answers that we don't have. So we start to, where do we look to for hope? And I believe what all of this in its greatest design and grand design is coming back to is the ability for our own capacity to evolve and develop our own self. Because when we can do that, we don't need government. We don't need governing or controls of any measure. What we become is self-governing. And if we were truly impenetrable, if we were unmanipulatable because we were disciplined in actually taking our own counsel and developing such a, you know, skills within our own self from high levels of intuition, which we can all learn. They're all parts of us. It's just a matter of understanding how to use them. If we have them, we know that we can't be manipulated. We know that, and the people trying to manipulate us recognize that as well, so they wouldn't dare suggest things that they know an educated group of people, a community, a nation would never accept. And I suppose that's part of what when we said at the start tonight, that if we can accept and recognize that we've created and invited this situation, then we have a starting point. and we can change that. But until we do that, we have to blame others. But in blame, what we're doing is waiting for someone else to improve our life.
And I think that's a great point. And if I can just bring it back, I'll bring Lionel and Donna on in a second. But this whole journey for me, like, again, just to reiterate it, we're not doing this for any other reason than to help people. You know, there's no donate now button on this webinar. We do it because we want to help people. And I'm going to say, you're doing the talking, mate, so I'm learning from you, and I'm building the plane as we fly it. But I've now learned what the Legislative Council in Victoria is. I've now written to Darren Cheeseman, who's a local MP down here, 40 times, and the ministers, and also even the MPs on the eastern side of town. I've learned a lot about common law, statute law, case law. There's so much that I'm involved in, and including some class actions. And as one person liked to remind me the other day, you know, who's going to pay for it? And I'm saying, as I said to them, well, you're assuming everybody wants money out of this. They don't. People actually want, like me personally, I'm not after a cent, even though this has cost myself, Gaz and Jules, and my business partners a juicing retreat up in Yukai. We can't get there because Gaz and Jules can't move 5K past it. We can't even cross borders. I'm not after a cent from anyone. I just want our rights, our liberties challenged in a court of law, because I think we seriously, if we did nothing, and here's this word, acquiesce, then we're as fucking guilty as agreeing to it. We really are. We have to stop. So for me personally, it's about continually making the publicly elected officials, they're not leaders, some show acts of leadership, but they are publicly elected people. They are no different to you or me, that we have put in power, and we should use them. They are there to represent us. And I made it known, I think I've sent over 150 emails prior to the sitting of Parliament on Tuesday opposing the extension lockdown and the fact that Andrews wanted to make a change to the law which says that we can lock you down even if there are 0 cases of COVID. Like, that's just absurd. And that is a control of power we don't need in this state. Anyway, that's my very quick spiel. I guess what I'm saying is that I'm choosing to do something about it, mate, and I'm not going to sit still because I'm driven by this, and also to help people who are really struggling through this. I mean, I think I'm a genuine, compassionate guy anyway. Mother-in-law might not always agree with me on that one, but I do like to help people. So with that, I might bring Lionel and Donna into the conversation, mate, because I know they've got a question for you. I'll just allow them to talk. So hopefully, Lionel and Donna, can you hear us?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Excellent. I might give you the microphone, mate. Oh, guys, ask away.
Yeah, great. Good to meet you, Jason. And yeah, thanks for all these talks, and Jason for organising them all. Just to give you a bit of a background, I mean, Donna and I, we've been married for about 3 years now. We've been together for 8. We have 2 beautiful young daughters, a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. Both of us kind of sort of come back from corporate careers, which we don't really do anymore. I spent most of my career in corporate banking and financial institutions, and Donna has worked in different sort of corporate roles in finance as well. We now live in Melbourne. I've been running a business for about 6 years in Melbourne, and I come from a family of business people. And I guess one of the things that I'm struggling through, and usually I find myself to be pretty resilient in pushing myself forward in things. But I guess one of the things that I'm struggling with now is the frustration of I'm okay to accept failure if it's of my own course or of the decisions that I've made. But it's becoming something that I get quite angry about, with potentially losing hundreds of thousands of dollars of invested money and losing our business off the actions of someone else that you actually have no control over whatsoever. And that person doesn't really seem to care of the impact that they're having to people's lives and to the futures of people and their children.
So you're asking, like, is what a way that to move through that, or
yeah, maybe just to manage dealing with that frustration. Like I said, normally it probably wouldn't bother me, because if I lost my business because I made mistakes, well, that's fine. Like that's something I can accept and I can get over. But it's where there's that oppressive nature that's keeping you down. How do you deal with that frustration where it's a situation you physically cannot actually pull yourself out of?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, It's no doubt challenging, and I mean I'm sitting here in Queensland, and you know I'm not going through the same things that you're experiencing in Melbourne. But one thing I know that's going to be the same, and it is going to be, and this might not be so comforting for everyone to begin with, but it's the sooner that we get to this particular place that you can start to move into a place of your own navigation, your own control, and your own direction. I think one of the most important things you mentioned about your wife and children that you have as well. I think what's most important that exists in that particular environment is that you get together, whether it's on a nightly basis, whether it's on a weekly basis, but that you actually spend some time with some open and authentic communication where you just allow yourself to speak without feedback from the other. And I think that it's an extremely powerful thing, that allowing yourself to listen to what someone else is going through without actually being fearful for them, but holding space, the kids and the parents, and allowing, because what comes out of that is a fabric that you will never break in any family. And it's a depth of relationships that are very much caught in the expression and the trust that is created in that particular space. And to me, if that's one thing that came out of this for every family that learnt to do that, to have that type of discussion, and that can be done with partner to partner, but with kids, it's about understanding the level of attention that when they receive that, what it is that they bring back into your life, and a level of vibrance that had been forgotten. And to me, that's one thing. It's a challenging thing, and I can go more into it if you need more detail on it. Secondly, what's most important is we as individuals cannot progress and make change until we have a starting point. We can stand as much as we like, and we can argue and we can blame and do as many things as we want to do, but until we actually understand where we're starting from, we will not confidently move forward and take that next step. And I've observed this in so many different and traumatic situations, and it's one of the most difficult things, especially when it seems that like there's no hope and I'm being completely controlled around me, but is to first come to understand and accept where it is that I am right now. And if that means that I'm sad, if that means I'm fearful, if that means that I'm challenged by this situation, I'm fearful of losing my business, I'm pissed off with what these people are doing, and to the extent I want to harm them because of the way I feel. The thing is, until that is expressed and that starting point is begun, we can't move forward, and we become held into account of waiting for someone or something else to change. And it's challenging at these particular times, because it's not until we look back and we go, geez, it's all the things in our life that have been most challenging, most arduous, that we look back upon, that has been the very making of our character, that allows us to progress forward to this next point and to the next point and to the next point. The challenge that is on all Victorians at the moment is for the amount of people that are standing up and are wanting to oppose what is being inflicted upon them, is the ability to be able to, and I know this is challenging as well, but this is the very nature of growth and in each individual, is to accept responsibility for what is occurring. And it's important to understand, I do not mean blame. Responsibility is when someone takes responsibility, it's a very powerful thing, but responsibility means that I choose and I can improve the situation that I'm experiencing right now. It's blame is something we place upon someone else. And we've been taught at a young age, when we take responsibility, we're in trouble. But responsibility in this particular part means that I am now choosing to change the situation. It has got dire, it has got challenging, but I believe in truth, and a lot of things that I've looked into, that I believe we're at the edge and at the starting point of something extremely significant. And I believe by the nature of what's occurring, it's causing people to rise up in order to change things. And I want to just get clear on the absence that we as people have taken on in times. And please ask questions in this, because it's an important thing to understand. We experience pain in our lives in order to make changes. And many of us wait until we're in a significant amount of pain before we make a change. For some, we wait more and more until we have to make a change and we're forced to. And it's not so liberating at that particular point in time, but we're in that particular situation to make a choice. Now, the issue is that pain that we go through is not there just to find relief. And that's the trap most of us fall into, that we get into pain and we look to find a relief and go, oh, well, that's all over. I can go back to what I was doing. But it's about, at that particular point, is to create a habit so I never experience this again. So whatever that may be in this particular point in time, every bit of pain that we experience in our life is to create a habit, which means changing the way that we do things eternally. Not occasionally, but eternally. And sometimes the sad thing is the pain that we have to go through is generally driven by the greatest trauma that we experience. And that's not, we don't want to have to do that. The habit we want to start to create is that we start to put energy into our lives when things are going great, that we stop falling into this nature of apathy, that we stop waiting for things to happen. And I believe that there's a brave new world that's been created, not in any fantasy, not in any form of hope, but in a definite and deliberate understanding of what's going on internationally. And I've made a point of, rather than going to fear, to educate myself and to understand what's happening. I've never been into politics. I've never had any interest in it. But I'm seeing in ways where I've never seen before that politics internationally is starting to move towards a cleansing and a detoxifying of the sinister nature of people that have been in control for a long time. And these were once conspiracy theories. They're not conspiracy theories when they're publicly released documents that you can find that exist in front of all of us. And to me, education is something that will set us free. But first of all, it's educating ourselves and learning to be able to become at ease in expressing those things that are uncomfortable, that are difficult, that are challenging, because I can guarantee you, whilst we hold on to them, they become toxic. They become the very killers of our own life. And they become the little suicide that's created every single day within each of us as we allow ourselves to accept things that are just okay, we'll see what we can do. This is about, us finding, just by practice, a habit that, why not do things where I don't have to sacrifice, but how do I do this and have joy in my life? How do I actually enjoy doing the things that I'm currently not enjoying? It's changing the question, changing the frame. But I know what I look at, Lionel, and appreciate the openness of the question. It's not about delivering something that someone wants to hear that will temporarily make them feel happy. It's about empowerment, that you can find independence, because I can guarantee in my life, if you enable yourself to do that and go through that process, and I know that there's no right way, there's your way. But enabling yourself to do that means that we start to reclaim the very thing that we have given away, which is what the frustration is driving now in so many people's lives, is what they're no longer in control of. And, that's it's a very challenging aspect. So to me, that, open expression within the family is significant, because it allows for open expression outside of the family eventually. To then be able to find and identify a starting point, and to do so with pen and paper. Look, there's a part of it, I could go much deeper into this, but the thing is that there's a responsibility that also comes with being able to support and facilitate and that over a longer period of time, because it's not just one hurdle that we're looking to get over. We're looking at transitioning into a new way of living. That there's certain navigation and hurdles that we do go through in order to do that. But that in itself, and I'm happy to answer further questions here or beyond in regards to that you may have, but I couldn't instill enough the importance of what I was suggesting, and I only say that because I've seen it work consistently.
I think that's great, Jason. I think you kind of hit it on the head. I mean, I've having run a business, obviously running a business is a roller coaster, and I think you hit the nail on the head when you say it's actually about creating that habit. It's not about that one-off resolution, and I think that's that's something really, I think, key that you just said to me, is that, create that habit of being able to handle that kind of situation versus dealing with it on a sort of a one-off standalone basis.
Yeah. I think, look, one of the most, you know, I've been doing this for a lot of years, and I feel like I've been doing it all my life. But I, I love human behavior. But one of the things I've become very aware of is that there's a lot of information out there for us to wade through. And for me, it's always been about finding the most simple way. And the thing that challenged me when I found the simple ways of doing things, they were so challenging because there was no excuse to not do them. And because they always worked. And then because they worked, I had to then go through change, which I didn't realize how much I didn't enjoy change because I was kind of enjoying where I was. And, you know, so one of the things that I would say is most simple and that we overlook because it is so simple and because we have access to it all the time. The most powerful thing that we have available to us all the time that creates children, that creates business, that creates life, that is a reason why we exist, is one thing, and that's called attention. And the thing is, we do not give enough credence to the power of attention. If we truly understood what attention was, and the reason our children grow to be what they are is dependent upon the quality of attention that they receive from us, not the quantity, but the quality of it. And everything that exists around us is vibrant to the degree of the quality of attention it receives. Now, if we can understand and really start to look at the impact that attention has on the life around us, we can start to realize the significant power that it has. And our life is about the mastery of that attention. Our ability, like as you're saying with what you just brought up, how long I can maintain it until I get to a point of not where I'm okay with it, not where I'm kind of satisfied, but where I'm inspired by my understanding of course, it's now I'm so grateful for this experience that was once a tragedy that I'm going through because I get it now. But it's that ability and that capacity that we need to create all of this huge power of our own attention. It's what you know, the government's only in power because the attention that they hold of us. The media has only been the media because it's held our attention. People want to learn. People want to be informed. People want to grow and develop in their own world, in their own life. But the thing is, the most challenging thing is bringing attention to ourselves and be able to reconcile a deep love within our own self. And to me, that's ultimately what love is. It's attention without reason. It's not attention because I need to fix something, because I need to hurt you, because of you did this to me. And just consider that for our own self, that I'm not going to go and meditate, or I'm not going to go and run, or I'm not going to go and do something because I feel fat or because I feel low, I'm just doing it because I feel great and because I want to. And that's that's genuine freedom, where there's no reason in order to ingratiate myself. And that's what I believe we can all do right now. But it's important in recognizing that when we go to do that for ourselves, listen and become present to all the judgments that you have. I probably shouldn't do this. I probably should be doing more work. My wife might think that I'm being a bit lazy. My kids need this from me. I've got to do that. I should be doing this. Listen to the words and how immediately they come when we just try to give ourselves attention and ingratiate our own self. It's just very evident of how important it is to become very masterful of controlling something so powerful as our attention. No disease.
Jace, can I just add there? I think, and probably to Lionel, just ask you a question. You don't have to share if you don't want, mate. For where I said I don't have a job at the moment, so I'm technically unemployed. Probably more by choice for me at the moment, but still I'm unemployed. What I'm finding is that we just can't, and I know Nae's basically said similar, has similar emotions, Naomi, to yourself. You know, she didn't vote for this guy, so how can she take responsibility? And that's a great question, Naomi, and my heart goes to you. I mean, you know, I worked with you for a while, and I felt we had a great bond, and we still do. So my heart goes to you on it. But for where I sit, you know, I don't think we can deny the reality of this world that we're living in right now. It's something none of us have experienced before, unless you lived through the Spanish flu. You know, what I'm seeing is that no one's coming to save us. And I think what Jason is saying is the self-mastery part is critical in helping you move and evolve through this, through COVID, through the oppression. But I think that's on each of us. Now, that may not help us tactically right now. So then the question is, what can you do tactically? Now, I don't know what you're doing, Lionel, whether you've got whether you're part of class actions, whether you're in your local minister's ear, whether you are part of local government in any sense or form, or any shape or form. But I do know there's a bucket like Nathan Buckley, I don't think he's a footy player, I think he's a lawyer. He's got a class action going. Serene is everywhere over social media at the moment. She's got a class action going as well. So from an aspect of being tactical about what you can do now, there's the self-mastery part, which I think Jason explained so well, but there are options in and around the tactical part as well that you can be doing, and to future-proof yourself the best you can moving forward.
Absolutely. I think it's the same as, I think someone just asked a question about, I didn't vote for this guy, so how can I take responsibility? And it's not about the voting for this particular person, it's the responsibility we take for how we feel about what's happening, and then therefore how we act upon that, and the choices that we make in what we're creating beyond it. Because it's what I'm saying is that if we stay in a state of blame, nothing will change. We're handing the keys of our life to someone else and hoping that they can right the wrongs that we were not prepared to or not able to at this point because we couldn't see how to. And I would suggest, for each of us, it's yes, there's a lot of things that are wrong, but as soon as we just shift and start to look for a solution to understand it, things become very different. It's when we get off that particular platform of right and wrong, but to get into understanding that things make a very significant difference in our life.
Lionel, does that help? I mean, I guess you got to take it on.
Yeah, definitely. I think the tactical side of it is where the challenge is. It's that constant moving goalpost that the government keeps setting. It's we'll get to this point. Oh no, but hang on, sorry. It's that little So it's to, I think, kind of have those little tactical things that you can work on in the interim till they're actually, well, hopefully on Sunday we're going to know that there's some measure of actual getting out of this. At the moment, it's kind of just been a moving goalpost all the time. But we've definitely I'm the same as you, Jason, where like I had absolutely no interest in politics. I don't believe in the political system. I think it's a very, very ancient system that's kind of just evolved. But we've also learned a huge amount about Parliament that we never knew. We've also been writing emails, writing letters. I sent a letter to Scott Morrison asking for help for Victoria. We're joining 2 separate class actions. We've taken also those tactical steps to do the things that we can do, that we believe in fighting for the future of our children.
Yeah, perfect, mate. I mean, you're doing all the right things tactically to try and move through it. And I'm part of 27 groups now, and you just know that through some of the comments, and this is where we become the media experts, not the mainstream media, which is, in my opinion, here in Australia, is extreme left. Channel 9 was bought by, or shareholder out by, George Soros last year. So Nick and I, my wife and I, never turn on mainstream unless there's a reality show we may love or the footy's on or something. But I can't think of the last time we turned on Channel 7, 9, 10 too. We just refuse to look at the mainstream media because it is so biased. And what I find is that a lot of the truths and the pearls that you learn actually come from these citizens on the ground, if you like, that are reporting on the ground. And there's so much in there that I've found that it's been so useful, so useful. Donna, did you have anything you want to ask? Well, just while we got you on open mic.
Yeah, no, I think you've covered a lot, Jason. And I think in the beginning you spoke about, I think my question to Jason Miles earlier was, how do you deal with your whole belief system being compromised, i.e. being in a situation where you're feeling like you're controlled and you can't get out of it. But I think you touched on that earlier. And again, it comes to self-governance and just looking at how you can change the way you feel about it or take responsibility for your feelings versus thinking that they have control of you, i.e. the government. So that was my biggest thing at the moment.
Yeah. I can add just a little bit to that and just let me know if it assists you, Donna, is with at times when we're in a, excuse me, a challenged and maybe we could say a disintegrated or disconnected state, what happens and what becomes apparent around us is things that we're not enjoying, that we're not present to, that we don't enjoy, that we don't like, whatever it may be, some sort of trigger. And where a lot of misconception has come is that people try to fix that trigger. They try to, how would you say? They try to address the problem. But the truth is it's about a very simple difference and a very simple process that we can all go through is forget about the problem that's presenting. That problem is just a condition of the state of being that I'm currently holding. And what it takes in our own state of control is to stop and look around and go, well, there's a lot of shit I don't like that's going on at the moment. But stop, move yourself away from that and get into a space of your own connected state. Because these things are just like red light indicators on the panel or the dashboard in front of you. They are just to let you know that something is occurring. They are not to be addressed. The addressing is about getting back to a connected state, getting back into an integrated state. Because if we continue to keep trying to fix the problem, we're going to go around in a loop and eventually we're going to become frustrated. Eventually we're going to become burnt out, overwhelmed, putting a lot of effort in trying to fix and keep all this plate spinning again and again and again. And this again is this again is a level of mastery, and it's not mastery that requires you sitting in some, high above a mountain and sitting in silence. It's just learning some simple processes. And, a lot of that begins with what the world's going through at the moment is purging and letting go. We have been so much taught to accumulate things, like even beliefs. We have, and just consider this, we only have beliefs where we don't have self-belief. So a belief is a truth from the past that we've held on to, and they're generally contradictory to our own truth. So what we want to find is that where we have a belief and it's rigid is just, we can free ourselves by going, well, why don't I have self-belief then? Why don't I allow myself to act in the moment? Why is it they have to be rigid to say, no, this is right and that is wrong? And that becomes the very, it is rigid. It is the very thing that doesn't allow us to be supple, to allow us to be like water and flow. Like the strength of a river is determined by the structure that exists around it. If you don't have solid walls on a river, the river can't flow. It needs structure. So for us, we also need structure in our own way that we may deal with certain situations or certain things that we find ourselves in an oppressive state with a renegade leader that wants to, to rule or to do whatever his agenda may be. So it's coming to that particular point where I would say when we start to discover a bit more and give attention to ourselves, we start to realize how significant and how brilliant we are, that we have fallen into this trap of not talking about our brilliance. And it's a great practice to do at home. I mean, it's very uncomfortable, but imagine sitting around with your family and talking about genuinely and trying to feel at ease with what you're brilliant at. It's not an easy thing to do when we start to realize how much time we start speaking about all of the troubles that we have and all the things that we do wrong. And if I only did that better, if I only did that earlier. But to sit in a space of our own brilliance and speak into that, I would suggest to be one of the most challenging things that anyone can do. But why is that such a difficult thing? Why is it that we don't have the grace to be able to do that? And that's why we have leaders that assume all this power, because we are not assuming it ourselves. A person like Daniel Andrews has no chance to actually satisfy anyone because so many people have acquiesced the power that they have. I'm not talking about people on here, in some parts, all of us, but a greater state of the population have given all of their ability to make decisions away to a leadership. And that particular person can do nothing but be corrupted. They can't serve everyone. And the thing is, there's all these expectations of navigating them through their life. And it can never happen. It's not until we take back that, until we recognize that. And what I'm saying is just simple practices of, getting a pen and paper. There's a question here about how do I drop into, a deeper state? I think that might be the question. There's some very significant designs about the nature of being human. One of them is well, you can't lick your elbow, I've been told. And but in that same type of degree, try not to make it all too serious, but the same type of degree, you cannot get a pen and write and think of something else at the same time. It is impossible to do. And in the very nature, the more present that we can become to what's coming through us, and there's certain elements of writing and journaling that, look, are more powerful. And I would suggest that that'll challenge some people here is that any disease can be overcome by a pen and paper if you know how to use it. And this is the type of thing that we haven't been taught. And it's what's happening now is that there's a rising up where people, I don't accept the way things are now, so I'm going to make a change. And I've always thought to myself, I can either complain about something or I can create something different. And I think that's what really starts to activate, you know, an independence within people to create a community that's worthy, that's brilliant, and it's exceptional. And if we allow that, we can start to do some very significant things, but it does take patience. It does take an ability to allow ourselves to let go, to release, in order to bring in and receive something new. So it's yeah, it is important. It is important, I believe, to just stop at times and consider your own brilliance in the face of all this oppression, because you start to focus on things very differently. You start to see things very differently. There are, you know, further and deeper practices that are there and available. We try to share as much as we can on our page to do that, because it's like a lot of this information is free and people own it within themselves. It's just, again, it's just understanding how to navigate it. Not, you know, we've got to stop seeking wisdom and start understanding how we can navigate what we already have, because it's already complete. It's just how much we're allowing ourselves to get distracted by others that don't have our best interests at heart. And to be in all truth, I don't want to, you know, surprise anyone with this, but no one else should have your best interests at heart. Not your partner, not your children, not anyone else, because it's for them to have their best interests at heart. And for you to have your own is the greatest example that you can provide for others, because this is where this very nature of, you know, there's a very nature at the moment of everyone's coming together to be a part of a community. But we need to come together is within our own self and through our own independence and an understanding and appreciation of ourselves, so we can share that with others. If you think of when you're most vibrant and when you're most inspired is when you have the most to contribute and share to others. And if we can understand that of our own selves, community just becomes a normal and organic transition from those people when they allow themselves to see their own brilliance. Yeah,
So,
not that they have their disinterest at heart, but to suggest that if we were to focus on our own selves and our own understanding of ourselves, we bring about a great space that allows people to experience and express their own difference. So it's and I think that's one thing that's been lost, you know, along the way with a large part of our own experiences. We've forgotten to consider ourselves, and therefore other people have been making decisions for us for quite a long period of time.
No, thank you.
That's it.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Lionel, and thanks, Donna. I appreciate that.
No, thank you both.
No, pleasure. Hope you can.
We've got a couple of questions here. Jason, one of yours. I'm just going to quickly scroll down. Jason, what makes you optimistic? I'll answer that. Serving others. So it gives me optimism, me personally, doing stuff like this, and just if I help. I help. Obviously, Jason's the one with his knowledge of what he's been through, but just helping one person, it gives me extreme optimism to know that one person then may help someone else, who may help someone else, and just knowing I'm there and being a servant of other people. I find that when I do that, and I'm a pretty selfish guy, that it immediately takes the focus off me and puts it onto somebody else, and that gives me fulfillment and a lot of optimism.
Mm.
I'll just quickly run through. We've got a few more. So John Reynolds, if you were in, we'll call you JR, mate. Nothing like the guy out of Dallas. If you were in Melbourne and choosing, like me, not to wear a mask, How might you respond negative or awkward comments or responses? Yeah.
Thank you is always a good one. It's to not take that on. It's, you know, the other option is to get involved and to take that on. It's kind of the story of when a gift is given but not received, the gift still remains with the giver. So if it's our ability to not receive, you know, to acknowledge in the face of that and to understand where that person's coming from. But it's not about taking that on. It's about you within your own self when you're making a choice to not wear a mask, is to understand that people are probably going to do that. So prepare yourself for it before you go out. I don't agree with, you know, those types of responses, but what I'm saying is it's how you maintain your own sovereignty and sanctity within your own self.
Yeah. I think from where I sit too, Jess, on that one, even though we're not stage 4, we still have to wear a mask down here in Geelong. I take a cup with me, and, well, I have a coffee, and as we go walking, and I never let that coffee cup go, and you know, so it's empty all the way, and I refuse to wear one. The second thing is, and I'm probably doing this more because I'm actually not wearing the mask as I go out, is I'm actually not, here's the word again, acquiescing. I don't look at people as if they're looking or judging me. I simply go about my business, and I just refuse to pay them any energy. You can sense it. Nick and I were walking on the beach the other day, on the beach, and we live near a beautiful beach. There were 4 people on the beach, 4, my wife and I, the greyhound, and this other couple, and she was covered up, incredibly covered up, and she stepped 15 meters away from us in fear. And I just went, you know what, I'm not giving you a piece of that. You know, I didn't have a mask on, Nick didn't have a mask on, and we just simply went on our way. So I think for us personally, it is just to not get drawn into that energy. Just it's not your business, mate, not your business at all.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I know at the very beginning that I was having a little bit of a giggle to myself, and I thought the way that people were jumping out of the way, and it was strange, it was different. And then I suppose there was a bit of a comfort in, well, that, you know, as a laugh or a smile came when this thing first began. But, you know, it just gets you involved in as long as you will never take judgment from another if you're not giving judgment. And then, like Jason's saying, you're just not apparent to it being there because it's not part of the makeup. But yeah, I think it's beautifully answered.
Got one from Susie Q. I love the name. How do we best get ourselves out of a really bad loop of regret, blame, when you're just finding it too tough to get out of it? So that's self-fulfilling prophecy, Jason.
Yeah, how do we get ourselves out of a really bad? It's very much dependent upon what the actual situation is of regret and blame. But the very nature of it that I could suggest without knowing too much about it is, look, I'm using the pen and paper example at the moment because it is something that everyone can do. It's not something that we teach. It's an element, but it's just something that I know works all the time. But if you're in that particular place, the greatest power exists in finding a starting point in order to move forward, because once you've got a starting point, you can choose which way to head. But I would suggest that you take a moment and the time and the presence to write down exactly what's happening, what you're pissed off about, what you're frustrated by, what you're regretting, who you're blaming, how it's making you feel. Be as specific and detailed as you possibly can. If that's 10 pages of writing, if that's 20 words, whatever it is, write it down exactly as it is. Now, once you've done that, it's at that particular point to then read and observe what it is that is going on. And at that particular point, it's a matter of what I would suggest. However, if you have a form of meditation, if you have a form of breathing, but it's to separate yourself from that particular place until you feel at ease. Until you, in your own self, whether that's going for a walk, whether that is breathing. I mean, there's a very simple technique of 7 sevens, which is breathing in for 7 seconds, holding it for 7 seconds, and breathing out for 7 seconds. And doing that 7 times. that in itself has a specific pattern that will allow you to find a greater state of clarity. It's basic, but it will work. But the most important part is writing it out and becoming present to what it is that exists within you. And in the doing of that, I would suggest that's the first part. If it's something more personal, I'm happy to add to that in a private matter. But that would be a starting point, is to first become present to it, because we continue to keep reacting to what we don't understand and we're not present to.
Thanks, mate. How do you tell the difference between challenges? This is from Jackie. How do you tell the difference between challenges and the universe telling you not to keep? This is a really good question. How do you tell the difference between challenges and the universe telling you not to keep going? When do we push through and when do we take the hint and let something go? My God, I know a lady on the line here could answer that one beautifully, Julianne. But yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah. This type of discernment requires a level of practice, because we've bought into so many, I suppose, higher powers, the idea of a universe, a God, whatever it may be. The very nature of understanding that when we go through certain aspects of our own life and we go through growth, we are going to be challenged. What it comes down to is the clarity of what it is that you're moving towards. So if you can understand and be completely clear and clarified, what is it that you're moving towards? Why is it that you're moving towards it? Now, to be able to identify the difference between a challenge and the universe telling you to not keep going, I don't think there's any difference in that. I don't believe personally in a universe. I believe in something far beyond that. I believe in that it's all within us, and it's our own capacity to be able to see that significance and then be able to tap into that. And like I was saying before, it's the practice of being able to maintain that connection. I mean, that's the very nature of exactly why we exist as an organization, is that is the very key of our own existence, to be able to have discernment. So to be able to identify the very source of our own truth, to be able to communicate with that, and then be able to do so in such a way that there is undeniable trust, that you listen in the preparedness to act before you receive. I don't believe in anything else outside of us that has dominion over us. These are the types of fallacies that we've been taught. That the truth is within all of us. We have the capacity to change and create whatever it is that we choose. But it's, again, that's a significant power. But so it's a matter of being able to humble ourselves to understand how to actually access, but most importantly, maintain that. Not just do occasionally, not just do when the conditions are right, but we can all do that. It's when the conditions are most apparently oppressive for our ability to do that, because that's when we determine the very nature of the environment we exist in. We're not a product of the environment. The environment is a product of us, and it's about understanding, things at a much higher capacity, which is native to us. We've just been taught from a young age, to trust in others and to trust in something bigger than us, because we're not significant. We're the same as everyone else, and we need to fit in. And that's, I would suggest, it's not something, it's not something I would say to you that you want someone else giving you advice on. It's that very thing that might be just strong enough for you to understand, that then determines you for a long enough period of time to learn how to do that. And I would, silence, for example, silence is one of the most powerful things that we can approach. And our ability just to stop and listen and to ask for guidance. But the thing is, this is a very important truth, that many of us seek guidance from ourselves or from others. And I can tell you, and to understand your own power, if you're not already predisposed to act upon the information you receive, you're going to receive information that you're not going to act upon. I'll say that again, that if you're not predisposed to act upon the information you're about to receive, perfectly delivered to you will be information you're not prepared to act upon. You determine the information you're receiving by your intention prior to receiving it. So what that requires of each of us is to develop a level of trust that goes beyond what we've been taught or exposed to previously. And what I would say to you is that's so simple to access. The difficulty is in learning how to navigate and maintain it. To me, there's, I mean, this is, and to go further, like things like vaccines and all of these things this should be stimulating within people a capacity to recognize no matter what is brought within my presence, it's not going to have an impact upon me. And we have the capacity at such a simple level that if someone was to inject us with poison, it would have no effect upon us. But it's a matter of moving out of a place in our ego where our beliefs exist and moving into a state of integration where we're not governed by our beliefs. And it's a simple, if we like, a changing of a radio station, not an occasional thing, but it's just understanding how we do that individually. It's not the same for everyone, but it's just understanding how to do that. And that, to me, if we all were capable of doing that, which is why I dedicate myself to, if we were all capable of that, we would never blame anyone else, because we would understand the power we possess and we would be schooled, we'd be educated in that. And that's my intention going forward from here in my entire life.
Yeah. I think I think Wim Hof, for those that know Wim Hof, he did an incredible exercise where him and 6 other people that he trained with him, he helped with awareness. And I think it was Clint probably would know this if he's on the line still, but he did it within 2 weeks. And they basically injected each of them with a virus of sorts, and they took no medication at all, yet they all 100% cured their bodies within hours of this injection through this internal process that you're talking about, Jace.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube, so go hunt it down. It's quite amazing.
I can, I think, you know, a lot of it comes in certainty. And what I mean by certainty is that when you start doing something, you've already made the decision to complete it. I mean, that's what certainty is. To have certainty is start something with, you've already decided you're going to complete it. Now, the very nature of, you know, our own abilities is within our own self. When we put attention upon, I mean, I nearly cut my finger off the other day, and to put attention upon that, the pain goes immediately. The other days, the same day, I put chili out on my fingers and put it in my eye, and it started to sting, and all I do is bring attention to it, and the pain goes. It's a matter of understanding just some simple capacities that we all have, that we've been so distracted by our own, you know, troubles, traumas, and flaws that we've been told and taught of, that we don't allow ourselves to do these things, and we become distracted by chasing after the pains rather than the simple practices of being understanding how to learn and do that, which I believe should be available to anyone and everyone. And that's what I believe that we're all moving towards anyway. We're moving to a place where the standard form of education will be gone.
Another one here, Naomi, I don't know if it's still on or not. It's more a statement, but maybe you want to chat with it. I can understand this approach in areas where government is not controlling your every move. It's beyond ridiculous here in Victoria. We are under martial law and it is tearing people apart.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I can't speak to it personally because I'm not in Victoria, but I would say I've dealt with people that have confronted and are in the middle of confronting things far more aggressive than what's going on in Victoria right now. And, you know, from deep states of terminal illness to, you know, oppressive other areas of the world. But yes, there seems to be less choices. There seems to be more oppression, but at the same time, there's a greater stimulation to learn and to discover something within yourself that wasn't there 6 to 8 months ago. And one thing that's occurred is the greater amount of attention and that you've brought to yourself, and starting to question things that now cause a greater level of creation going forward. The things that, and the reason why next time when you're applying yourself, you want to go that little bit further. You want to go that bit deeper. You want to not say, no, that's not good enough. You know, and that becomes, if we start to intrinsically change the habits and the fabric of our own intentions, that we don't allow this apathetic approach, which, you know, Australia, I believe, is being hit, and Victoria is being hit so significantly because in Australia we've become so apathetic to life. You know, things have become so easy for us, and they've been hand to us, but we've given so much of it away. We've allowed laws and we've allowed ourselves to be controlled in ways that I think are tragic, that are coming out more and more over the coming days. And, you know, it shows one thing at the moment, that we do need to understand ourselves and stand up and look at the way in which we're being controlled.
And there's now, just on that, there's now something like 300,000 people that have come out against the, or in favour of the Bill Heffernan video clip that's finally been reduced about the police documents that were handed to him, where under the Royal Commission for Child Abuse, they, for whatever reason, it's been through every Attorney General since Philip Ruddock, yet no one has acted on it. And one of the 28 significant people is a former Prime Minister, and yet the Prime Minister on the day elected to put a 90-year suppression order on it. So now there's people who have got wind of this and are actually creating a movement to try and have this released and the people brought to account. So it's not an easy thing to do. I don't think anyone's ever saying that, but I think there are things you can do while you're in it to make sure you learn the lesson and to take a learning out of it, in my opinion, again. There's another one here, Jason, this is to me, Jason Miles, stepping out of your own mind and trying to see things from Daniel Andrews' perspective. Why do you think he has taken the actions he did? Do you think he wants to be an overlord ruler? He doesn't look like the archetype. What do you think is his motivation? I don't actually give him a lot of space in my head. I do not like the guy, I'll say that. So I've taken a set against him, probably to my own detriment. But what I will say about him is, if I were in a team, I would want Daniel Andrews on it, because he is so steadfast in what he truly believes. And this is a bit of a mind shift for me. And Jason and I had this chat. He is so he believes cases are the cause of death. I don't believe it. Of course, I think he's a fucking Fruit Loop for thinking that. But he thinks cases are the only things that matters. He doesn't question it. He goes to his chief. He goes to Brett Sutton. Then Brett Sutton goes to the WHO. So all he knows is this one narrative. Do not go outside that narrative at all. Because if you do, you've seen what he's like when he's put under pressure by the Sky News reporters, not the Age or the Herald Sun. You've seen what those Sky News reporters who are now questioning him, he just falls to pieces. He can't answer them. He lies. He tries to deflect. He does everything. So I don't actually give him the space in terms of whether he's an overlord or not. I don't know. He might be. He might not be. But what he is steadfast in his belief that what he is doing is the right thing for the people of Victoria. I think he's absolutely 100% wrong. But you asked me, seeing things from his perspective, why do I think he's taking the actions he has? Because he believes in his heart of hearts, and Jason touched on it, he's doing the right thing. Is he part of the deep state, who knows? I don't honestly, I do not give it the space. All I do is give the solution the space and not him the space. When I see him talking, as a rule of thumb, I will edit him out and try and pick up the questions from the press, because they're more important to me than what spews out of his mouth. I hope that answers your question, Guy. What else have we got here, Jace? Quickly, I have one here. Question: how to deliberately include right people and influences? Sorry, let me go again, and I'm going to have to wear my glasses. How to deliberately include right people and influences that can bring challenge, insight, enhance awareness towards new growth. Question: how to deliberately include right people and influences that can bring challenge, insight, enhance awareness towards new growth. Law of attraction, maybe, Nath. I guess whatever you want in life, you get back. And I say this to anyone that complains about money or I drink because I'm lonely. I'm lonely because I drink. It's the lesser of two evils. I would say that it's whatever you put out is what you get back. I do know you, Nathan, and you're a quality human being, mate. I would suggest you're not getting anything too bad back. In fact, everything I see with you emanate and you resonate wonderful humans in and around you. Maybe you're not getting what you want because you're not actually asking for what you want. I don't know. Jace, you got a view on that? That's a
yeah, I think it's to be honest, I believe that we're manifesting exactly what we want. The thing is to understand why it is that we're wanting the things we're getting the things that we appear to not want, because most often what we're manifesting is what's unconscious within us, the things that we're not present to, the thoughts that we're not aware of. And the very nature of that is that, again, and it's, you know, it's amazingly simple in this particular part, that if you were to, Nathan, spend some time getting very clear on exactly what you want and refining that, and if you spent a period of 2 to 3 weeks, half an hour a day, writing in and building upon that and clarifying that down to not only what you want, but also very clear on what you don't want. And being able to start exercising what to say no to and what to say yes to in your life. That I would say to you as a starting point is one of the challenges that most people have, is we're all very good at saying yes and accumulating. We're not very good at saying no. And I mean no in a graceful way, in a way that actually you mean it, that you're not there to offend anyone else, but you're doing honor of yourself. And we don't want to be considered as being, how do you call it? What's the word? We don't want to be considered selfish. We don't want to be considered self-centered. The very nature of what we want to be looking at is again, a deeper level of understanding. It's, look, I would say also, you know, some of the things, there's a lot of things going on in the world. And I would tend to point people's attention away from a virus and away from the very nature of it. And I would say just to do some further research into that. And there's some great perspectives out there, because if you want to look into deeper states, and not the deep state, but deeper states of life, is look at the quantum financial system. Explore that. Understand what that actually is. This is something that's coming into place, about a significant change about the way in which the economies will be run internationally and why. This is where you can start to put your attention into something far beyond what many of us will ever consider that a government would ever do or put in place. And then to consider, well, why is this happening in Victoria? Because then you start to recognize that in Victoria, maybe what they're doing is not locking people down. Maybe they're trying to stimulate an awareness or an uprising, but it's a matter of looking at things from a point of understanding, because at the moment, to consider what is occurring and the oppressive nature of it, I would suggest that there's another answer. But that is something that I believe every individual has to go through in their own journey in advocating a greater level of understanding. There's an act called, and I would even say this is just at the surface of it, called Nasara and Jasara. There's an act that a lady from Congress, you know, spoke about, an act that's been live in international circles for 60 years. And some say is the reason why JFK is no longer alive. And it's to understand it's something that happened in Australia. These things are being risen, and a toxic nature of life has been brought to the surface so it can be cleared. And this is the very nature of nature, is that something always exists, has an awareness, it then expresses itself, and then it's complete. And that cycle continues throughout life. And it's a matter of the distinction between that awareness and what it is, what the expression is from that awareness, and then how it is determined to be complete. And we've got control of that all of the time. So when we start to look at and focus upon Victoria and the way that it's going, there's not many great stories except to see what I can create beyond this. Because if we continue to keep getting caught up in the opposition, the right and wrong, we're entangled. But if we start to look beyond that, further than that, we'll find some very significant difference. And that's where we come down to what I would say is most challenging for all of us, is to create. You know, it's, I would say that's not say, I would put my life towards a simple fact that the most challenging thing that we all have is to create something that's completely unique. And if this is what this is stimulating, I'd say great. If that's what it brings forward, great. Because it's what many of us need to come to understand, is to stop pretending about how insignificant we are, but recognize how significant we truly are. And that's, I'm not here to, I suppose, win friends. I'm here to be as truthful as I possibly can. And I would say, look beyond the distraction of a virus, look beyond the distraction of what's occurring. But this is a game. It's not about believing me. It's not about trusting me. It's about having a level of discernment within yourself that allows you to find a truth that resonates with you. And that requires our ability to listen, to discern information, to act upon that information, and to follow that through to completion so that we can begin again and create what it is that we want. Not be putting our attention to something we don't want, not be creating something we don't want and completing something we don't want.
So just to hold you there. So for me, that is true intelligence, because in today's society, we look at intelligent people as being academics. As a rule of thumb, professors, whatever, deans, they're the smart ones. But I think what you just said then was, you are your own intelligence. You're not, if you go within, you do the self-mastery, the intelligence comes from within here, not from out there.
Yeah, and you got to understand it's native within us. It's a natural function. What we've learned to do is to oppress and go against that. We put so much time and energy in making it most difficult and complex. When we start to understand and start to move into that particular place where nothing's broken, we move very rapidly through things. We've got to recognize we've allowed things like psychology to become an answer in our life. It never has been, it never will be, and it'll continue to keep us in the loop. We've allowed science as an idea, which has only been around for a couple of hundred years in its formal way. It's been corrupted in its own way too, that it's someone's observation of what's going on. It's for you to consider, not for you to accept blindly. And the very nature of most science is paid for anyway, but we allow ourselves to look over that rather than look at, a bias and a truth. I mean, we live in a country where we have a constitution that is not followed. How have we allowed that to happen? We've fallen asleep at the wheel at some point. It's not about beating ourselves up. It's about recognizing the opportunity in the space that we've got to move into, which to me is extremely exciting. And that's, for me, and my passion again, is children, and getting children into this particular place of learning before they become at a place where they have to unlearn and undo. And that's what's most important is, that ability, like you're saying, look, schooling, the greatest thing that comes from schooling is the ability to relate to other people and the friends that you make. To me, there's nothing great about being away from the family. There's nothing great about anything that exists at school. That same amount of time applied in different ways, we would elevate so much further beyond it. And then formalize schooling to believe, and the amount of people that believe that they're not capable because they don't have a certificate or they don't have the right to speak into things is very sad. But that's the society and what society has delivered to us. And we don't have to accept that anymore. And that's part of what, some people might be going to demonstrate on Saturday against that. But it's not about against that. It's about actually being able to move into life without dragging your traumas with you. It's about being able to come to a place with ease, to recognize there's going to be challenges, to overcome them, and to look for solutions beyond it. I mean, have engaging conversations with people on what you can create. And I know it's very easy to talk about what is wrong and what that fucker's doing and all of these types of things, but it's within our own self that the true answer exists, and it's far out. I just, the things that I've seen happen and people overcome, has brought me to my knees and tears in so many occasions when people just allow themselves to accept themselves as their own leader. It's then when love comes.
I think you said it well there too, Jace, where you say everything is native to us, yet we look for the alternative. We're always, we're taught the alternative, and yet one of the things that Gaz and Jules do so well at our juicing retreats is we actually break down the word alternative, and we go, well, what are you actually doing? You're altering your native state. So instead of looking within, on the outside, look within, because that's where the true healing happens. When you alter native, you're going against who you are, the very essence of who you are, every time.
Absolutely. And that's the, we've come to believe in a word called natural. And natural is what we learn. Native is what we are. And it's, it seems to be, it's just a different word. It's a significantly different word. And it's the same as when we use things like the mind, that the mind is, it's not what we are. It's what we've been taught that we are. And it's our ability to have an awareness not to live in the mind. The mind is the gap between our integrated states of physical and energetic. And when they're integrated, we don't have a mind. We have presence and awareness. When we are separated or disintegrated, our mind starts to take over and confuse us with all the complexities that we've experienced in our life, and we keep referring to something in the past trying to change the future. And it's just a matter of muting that. And it's not a matter of fighting against it or trying to fix things. Because look, every trauma, every problem, everything that we face and have had is dissolved when we are fulfilled in this moment. When we're fulfilled in this moment, everything that's happened to us has been great. But when we're not fulfilled, suddenly our parents, you know, they weren't good to us. Our friends did wrong things to us. So it's very important that, you know, it's about the simplicity. It's about being in the present moment and acquiring such a way that we can maintain that.
We've got one more, I think, mate, and that is, Jason, for you, JR, how would you recommend that we balance some memories for knowledge or pleasure, yet to be in the moment, be present, and not hold on to the past without use of memory past awareness? How can we engage with others?
This might challenge some people, and it always seems to, when it brought up, that the memories are just imbalanced, unresolved moments. That when we believe that we've had greater times than what we'll have now, that we're unable to emulate that at this moment, that the greatest fulfillment that you'll have will be in this moment. I'm not saying that you don't remember what happened, but it's not a presence to you. It's nearly like you have to re-access that. But there's certain parts that our ability to be present, you know, sometimes it's enforced upon us when we're a kid and we're up to mischief, and suddenly someone opens a door or the police pull us over or whatever, suddenly we are right there in that moment. We can't escape it. We're not thinking of the past. We are right there in that particular moment. I would suggest that the best way to practice being present is to not prepare for the moment. You know, like I know myself, I was, if I knew I had a speech to do at school, I would, 4 or 5 days out from that, I would start working up the flu and the sickness, and I'd start telling Mum how sick I was feeling and starting to get a bit of a temperature, because I knew I didn't want to be there for that talk, because I hated any sort of aspect of that. But I now make a point of, I never prepare for a speech. I never prepare for a talk or a meeting ever. And that just puts me under a point of where I have to then be present in the moment. So it's in our own state of life. It's not thinking about how you're going to act in that moment coming up, not how you're going to be received, not whether you're going to be rejected. It's about just being exactly where you are at that moment. You know, phones and whatever it may be, it's not about not having them or doing particular things in different ways. It's just whatever you're doing, do it. Don't make apology for it. But I really feel that the memories in our own life, and especially those persistent ones, are simply unresolved, and they are very much the hurdle that doesn't allow us to have a fulfillment in this moment. You know, when we hold on to a partner or a particular experience, we're not allowing that to be emulated because we're holding on to it. And I would suggest that every sickness, every ill feeling, and everything that's unresolved in anyone's life is because of their inability to let it go. Everything we hold on to, we only hold on to things because we don't believe we can recreate them. So it's so very important that as individuals, if there was one thing that we were ever to learn and to find freedom, is the ability to let go. And to me, look, we teach something called present moment, which is all about that. And it's not about being present, it's about letting go, because then you go back to your native state of being present. It's about removing all the distractions and interruptions that cause you to not be there. So, you know, there's a lot of compromised teaching that tries, okay, I want to be present. Well, here's how you be present. It's not how you be present, because these are natural and native states. It's a matter of removing the things that cause you to not be present. It's a matter of getting rid of the things that make you sad, and happiness will become more prevalent. It's not about trying to be happy. You try to be happy, you'll chase it away, and you'll continue to keep pursuing it as if it's not a part of it. But it's our ability to be able to encapsulate and look into our darkness That's the very nature of our freedom. It's our willingness to walk into that, and that's a significant part of our life, is our ability to be able to approach and embrace. I'll just leave you one thing at the end, and it's something to consider, is when we are confronted with something of great pleasure, every bone in our body, every fiber, every cell embraces it. And we receive a volume of information, a significant volume of information. And that moment within that pleasure goes very quickly, because we're all there, because we allow it to come to us and through us. We experience it as a whole. There's no resistance. But when something we perceive to be painful or wrong, we resist it. And that pain sticks around forever. Consider someone coming into your house that you love, that you want to be in your house, and you enjoy every moment. It seems to go in an instant. But consider someone that's very uncomfortable for you to be around. The time that they're with you seems to be an eternity, because you never actually embrace and step into that moment. And because of your absence, time, which is an illusion itself, but time seems to tick by tick by tick, because you're not choosing to be present. If you want to move past pain, you embrace it. And the very nature of it, it doesn't become pain anymore. It becomes an understanding that you progress past. And that's a true nature of freedom. And that's why, if people can actually allow themselves to do that through this, there's look, embrace pain, but I'm not saying go and look for pain, but embrace it, because your choice in embracing is choosing to move through it.
Thanks, mate. I'm going to wrap there. I just want to close with the whole being present thing, because it means so much to so many people. And I had 29 years in corporate and worked, I don't know how many people from Aussie Post, a couple there. I know I worked with Donna. Oh, I didn't work directly with her. She was the Aussie Post, and Jules. But the whole thing about being present, it's a whole new world for me. And to be honest, the experience I got was with our business partners, Gary and Julianne. We run the juicing retreats up, and I'm not giving them a plug, healyou.com.au. I'm not giving them a plug up when we run them up in northern New South Wales. But he's the corporate guy, and I kind of like MC the event, and Gaz is the brains trust behind it, because he's got his 25 years of being a shamanic healer, and Jules with her intuition is just incredible. I go in there with a pack, and I'm ready to present in a space which is almost sacred. And I know that, Clint and Rod, they're all laughing at me. They're going, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing? Just trust your intuition. And this is going back a couple of years. And of course, when you come from a space of hiding behind a PowerPoint pack where you can talk to it, because that's what you're trained to do, to going into a space where, and like now these sessions, the first one I still put a bit of time into them, but it's a matter of sitting in the space and truly trusting you that you're going to get the right information at the right time. And now that's all we do. And I'll tell you what, the feedback we get is incredible. It's just that authenticness, the genuineness, of who you are and what comes through. It's expressed in such a way that most people can align with it, rather than seeing another presentation on the wall. So yeah. So thank you for that, mate. I appreciate you, Jace. You've given up your time here. There's not 1 cent. No, you've not asked anything for anyone. You've certainly not asked me. I'm not getting. There's no click through. Like I said, there's no donate button here for you and I, especially for you, mate, because this is your world. But I sincerely appreciate you giving up your time, mate. It is with much gratitude. The feedback that I get has been nothing but first class. Even if people are only getting one nugget of gold out of it, that's one nugget of gold they never had. So, thank you very much, mate. I certainly appreciate it. If you want to know more about it, go to the Quantum Movement. It's there is a webinar Jace is holding, but again, it's not a sell. It's just if you're interested, if you're inquisitive about taking a step beyond where you are now, then just check it out. I mean, God, the worst thing you do is say no. Entirely up to you. So, mate, appreciate you. Thank you so much for your help. I think we're going to do one more next Thursday, and we'll see how we jig it up from there.
Thanks to you, mate. Like the whole reason for doing this and what inspired it was just the presence that you bring to your own conversations, the passion that you bring to your own beliefs, and I think when we spoke, I said I just made me feel that I just wanted to do this, and it didn't matter where it was going. And I think we did it once and thought, well, let's just do it again. And it's I'm more than happy to do that, especially sharing the space with you. So thank you, and thank you for everyone who took the time to even ask questions and be a part of it as well.
Yeah, I guess if there's any feedback you want to leave, guys, about something you'd want to, I mean, Jason and I'll talk during the week about what we talk about next week, but if there's anything you want, it'll be Jason, but us to chat about, by all means, let us know, because we're not doing this for us too, we're doing it for the people that want to be part of this and want to hear and want to move forward. So, don't be shy. You've either got my details or Jason's details, so reach out, let us know, have a chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lionel and Donna, also for being part of this. We appreciate you too. So thanks so much, guys. Enjoy your night. And until we see you next time, as Jason would say,
enjoy it.
Ready?
Enjoy.
See you guys.
Bye.